When I was young, I decided to go on a road trip, and I wasn't coming back until I ran out of money. I walked to the end of the driveway and back. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, Jane, Weasel, great to have you here. The road trips that I remember the most were back in the 1970s. Not on the highway, but in the hallways of the hospital. I was an X-ray tech back then, and my mode of transportation was a portable X-ray machine. Have you ever seen one? Today's portable X-ray unit is probably about the size of a standalone lectern. It's compact, computerized, motorized, technologically advanced. The portable X-ray machine of the 1970s was very different. It did not have a motor. It weighed over 1,000 pounds. It was very difficult to move around. I really struggled with it. It was like pushing a great big old lawnmower. We used the portable to go to all the patients that couldn't come to the X-ray department. This took me on road trips all over the hospital. The emergency room, the operating room, intensive care unit, the locked section of the psych ward, and the morgue. One of the regular road trips that I would make was to the operating room. Now, in order to get to the operating room, I'd have to take a side trip, the elevator. I dreaded taking the beast on the elevator. I would back in, drop in with an extra 1,000 pounds of weight, and the entire elevator floor would just start to shake. Sometimes the floor would even drop several inches. If anyone else was on the elevator, visitors or other hospital personnel, they would become extremely nervous. I would try my very best, since I caused this problem, to help alleviate their anxiety. I would try to engage them in small talk. I would say things like, "Do you know who Darth Vader's wife is?" "Ella. Ella Vader." Sometimes they would laugh, and sometimes they didn't. So when the doors opened, I would just give that machine a heave-ho and be on my way. I guess some people really don't appreciate an X-ray tech's radiating sense of humor. After going down 2 more long corridors, I finally arrived at the operating room. I parked the portable in the hallway, and then I ran into the lounge to change into surgical clothes. Surgical hat, surgical mask, booties. Then I put on a big, long lead apron. It weighed 20 pounds. I grabbed the portable, as I like to call it, the Great Zamboni, and started to push it down another long corridor until I finally got to the operating suite that I was assigned to. Now you all know, probably, what an operating room is like. It's very quiet, people are very focused on their work, it's a serious environment. But they always knew when I was coming, because I sounded like a freight train coming down that main hallway. And when I arrived, I would be perspiring so profusely from all the physical exertion that it took for me to get there, that my glasses would fog up from my surgical mask. Finally, when the fog lifted, I could see the patient on the operating table. The procedure was already over, and they were starting to remove all the drapes. The patient was still asleep. It was a male patient, and he had tattoos all over his body. Believe it or not, I had never seen tattoos before. I was only 18 years old. I'd seen pictures in magazines, but not on an actual real-life person. And he had tattoos everywhere. I mean, everywhere. But I didn't stare. I took the required films. After all, in X-ray, we are more than 50 shades of gray. Another road trip that I frequently had to make was to the morgue. Typically, we would get called to the morgue to help identify the body, to determine cause of death, or even to rule out foul play. The longest road trip was to the morgue. It was located in the farthest corner of the basement of the hospital. My first time, oh, I just dreaded going down there. The other older, more experienced technologists, they weren't any help. They would say things to me like, hey, if you see the Grim Reaper, don't say nice hoodie. That's flirting with death. Thanks. There were 3 dead bodies in the morgue, but they all had big smiles on their faces. I was confused. I looked to the pathologist, and he explained. The first dead body was a male aged 60, died of heart failure with his mistress, hence the enormous smile. The second dead body was a male aged 30. He had won the lottery, spent it all on liquor, and died of alcohol poisoning, but with a smile. Then I stared at the third body. Ah, said the pathologist, this is the most unusual case. Male, age 25, struck by lightning. Well, why is he smiling? I asked. He thought he was having his picture taken. Flash.
Shit.
Being an X-ray tech was a very odd job. Often, I would see patients at their worst and have to take their picture. There are 206 bones in the human body. And after so many road trips, I have X-rayed every single one of those bones. But I was thinking, with today's technological advancements, if an X-ray shows a broken bone, wouldn't it be great to fix it with Photoshop?
I got vicarious pleasure of hearing Arnie's review of Tom's speech, so I felt like I didn't know that was because he did such a good job. There are 2 manuals that I particularly enjoyed, and we heard a speech from each. The entertaining speaker has 5, all of the advanced manuals, of course, have 5 speeches, and they're all slightly tweaked and marvelously enjoyable, and the same is true of the Humorously Speaking manual. Margie was speaking from the Humorously Speaking manual, and this was speech number 4, Make Them Laugh. And as I recall, this is the one where you're trying to make the person laugh kind of throughout the whole speech. One focuses on really having a great funny beginning, and one focuses on a great fun wrap-up that's particularly good. I thought you had a terrific opening. I loved the way you started out. You were very comfortable. I love the way you referred to the guests here, and you seemed like you really are a part of the club. A couple of things that I particularly enjoyed was your play on words, the elevator, and radiating sense of humor. This is just the whole point of this speech, is have funny things throughout, which you were doing so well. You had great images pushing the monster of the machine, and then when you got to the OR with the fogged up glasses, not being able to see anything, and the flash for the picture being taken. Suggestions. I think you could have done more when you did the morgue scene and there were 3 bodies. I think there could have been some suspense. The one overall criticism was you were kind of even. You were so comfortable, but there wasn't a lot of up and down, and there could have been some humor with that. And I think in the morgue in particular, with these people with these 3 grins, you could have really, been scared or hidden behind something, or worked with that like you did with some of the other things. And you could have kept us a little more in suspense, possibly. Might have made it funnier as to why are all these people smiling? And are they in on something? Does the pathologist know something we don't know, or is he doing something special with these dead bodies? Or is making them so happy? I mean, these are just things that came to mind that I think you could have played with. And then finally, at the end, you had a very brief ending. The idea of photoshopping was very cute again. But I think given the way you use several examples of alliteration and several examples of moving the heavy, you could have had 3 or 4 examples of photoshopping or some other related photographic version in the 2017 version of this monster. Those would be my suggestions. Loved to hear it. I was entertained throughout. You met your goals 100%.